Oh man, I love this card. So Geist of the Archives is 2 and a blue for an 0/4 defender. Are you playing that card? Probably not, but it has at the beginning of your upkeep scry 1. So this is very similar to Sigiled Starfish, aka Scryfish, and I'd say it's almost better. The fact that it costs one more makes it a little worse, but it also has an additional point of toughness. Um, so I think this is a B. Scrying one a turn is very strong. What should I say about this one? Let's say Geist of the Archives is pseudo card advantage and a decent size D blocker. Plus relevant creature type. Yep. Grizzled Angler. Ooh, another flip card. So this is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 human that's already close to playable. I wouldn't love to play that card, but you can. So with no other text, this would probably be I don't know. So it'd probably be a C minus. But then it says put the top two, or maybe a D plus. Then it says put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then if there's a colorless creature card in your graveyard, transform Grizzled Angler. That's a bit specific. There aren't a whole lot of colorless cards in this set, but it'll happen sometimes. It's also possible you cast the colorless creature and, it dies somehow, right? So there's ways to make this work. But it turns into Grizzly Anglerfish, which is a 4/5 that can cause your opponents to attack with all their creatures if they are able, which is a very powerful effect. Having said that, this is at its core a 2/3 for 3 with 2 very nichely usable things. I think that it's probably a C. The upside is fantastic, but the odds that you get it are pretty low. You can also, yeah, exactly, Ophilis. You can just have a dead colorless creature. Yeah. And it does feel delirium. So I think it's a C. I'm not even sure it's a build around per se, Strand, because I would play this without a lot of delirium or without very many colorless creatures. As long as there's some graveyard synergy or some colorless synergy or some delirium synergy or a variety of those things together, this is playable. So I'm not even sure I'd call it a build around. It's more like a bunch of minor synergies in a bunch of different places. What colors have I seen yet? I've looked at all the cards, but I haven't gone through them with a fine-tooth comb yet. We've done white, and now we're doing blue. Also, there are random artifact guys flipping. True. Those do count. So let's call this like a C. Small upsides / upsides are hard to get, but a 2/3 for 3 is acceptable given those upsides. All right, next. What is next? Identity Thief. 2 blue for an 0/3. When it attacks, you may exile another non-token creature, which could be your opponent's or could be yours. If you do, it becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. Return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this is weird. 4 mana for this is kind of rough. It does not block very well. It can block two power creatures, but not much else. It probably is best exiling your opponent's blockers, but if those blockers have good ETB effects, it kind of sucks. I don't love this. It requires too many things to be great. Sometimes it'll be fantastic, but most of the time I don't think it's going to be. I think this is like a C. The fact that this is so bad on blocks is just ugh. If the blockers have good ETB, you both get them. True, yeah. Wait, no, you don't. It copies. Yeah. Hey, now, hang on a minute. Yeah, I think this is just a C. Maybe worse. I think it's like a C minus. This is a lot worse than it looks. Whoops. Can be good with good ETB creatures on your side. But removing blockers isn't. Otherwise, it's just an awkward card racing. I don't know. I don't think this is that good. My mind could change on this card, but I don't think it's going to really shine in limited very often. All right, what's next? Ingenious Scob. Yeah, Blackstormer, there are definitely cases where that card is really good, but usually it's not going to be that good. Ingenious Scob, 2 and a blue for a prowess 2/3, which is a zombie horror, and it has the ability of Water Courser, basically. Or, I forget what this ability is called, but, you know, +1, -1 till end of turn. This is nice. Water Courser, granted, it was in a much more aggressive format, but Water Courser was a very playable card. This card is basically strictly better than Water Courser. Different creature lines, but the prowess makes it much better. Did I miss Imprison in the Moon? Oops. We'll come back to that one since I started talking about the Scob. I'll get back to Imprison. Sorry, guys. I must have double-clicked on accident. So, yeah, I think this is like a C+. This is pretty respectable. It fights well against most things, and sometimes it's going to get in a lot of damage. Let's call it a C+. Oops. Alright, Imprison in the Moon, 2 and a blue, enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap to add colors to your mana pool and loses all other card types and abilities. So this card is absurdly good for blue specifically, because blue almost never gets removal like this. This is like in limited, it's not absurd. Like it's similar to Angelic Purge, right? There is a drawback. It does hit pretty much everything. It even hits things like Westvale Abbey, which is pretty nice. Oh man, how to rate this card? It's, I guess I like it at a B or maybe like B plus. It's hard removal. It does have a drawback because it ramps your opponent a little bit. The opponent could also sacrifice the creature. And the creature won't lose its converted mana cost. It'll still be like, let's suppose you put it on, I don't know. Let's suppose you put it on, let me find a good example. Let's suppose you put it on Abundant Maw. They will still have an 8 converted mana cost Abundant Maw that taps for 1 mana. Right? But it'll be a land, but they could still emerge from it. Oh, that's a good point. Oh, you're right. Yeah, bunt. Good point. You guys are right. So yeah, I guess it does stop emerge, doesn't it? Makes it a little better. Let's call it a B. I like this. This is good removal. Great removal for blue. Minor downside, but it hits almost everything. The set seems very complex for limited. It's pretty similar to Shadows, frankly. I don't think it's that complex. All right, Laboratory Brute, 3 and a blue. When Laboratory Brute enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard, and it is a 3/3 zombie horror. So those are relevant creature types, but this doesn't excite me. This is probably a C minus or C. The put top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard is upside, but it's rare that I think it really matters. So let's call this a C minus. Gets better with zombie graveyard synergy. Lunar Forest, 2 and a blue. Oh, right. This is one of the coolest cards from this set. When an opponent casts a spell, sacrifice Lunar Forest and counter that spell. So this is going to counter something. The question is what, right? Because this is the easiest counterspell in the world to play around. But it's kind of nice because you can just play it and then go about your business, unlike most counterspells where you have to hold up mana. It's a 1-for-1 against the worst card in your opponent's hand. Starfield of Nyx pluses. Unfortunately, Starfield of Nyx is not in Eldritch Moon Limited. I think in Limited, this card is probably a... Oh, I don't know. It's probably like a C. I don't think it's absurdly good, but it 1-for-1s with your opponent. It can't be that bad. Better late game than early, probably. Kind of wish it was common for Pauper, but that would be silly. Pauper doesn't need any more counter spells. Let's be real. Pauper has shit. It has counter spell, blue elemental blast. Basically, oh my god, so many good counter spells in Pauper. Exclude, dismiss, right? And yeah, if you have it on the board, and opponent doesn't have any bad cards to throw away, yeah. It does get better later. Mana leak, yep. Mausoleum Wanderer, 1 blue mana for a 1/1 flyer. This better have some other text on it, right? Whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, Mausoleum Wanderer gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay, so if you're a dedicated spirits deck, this card is playable. Probably. Like if you have 8 spirits in your... Let's suppose you have 10 spirits plus this in your deck. You're probably triggering this ability 3 or 4 times, which means it's going to be attacking as a 2/2 most of the... Like, probably for 3 or 4 turns. So this will get in a fair amount of damage. Then it also says sacrifice it, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless the controller pays X. So Curse Catcher, basically. In fact, this is almost strictly better than Curse Catcher, except it's a spirit and not a merfolk. So this is awkward. 1 mana 1/1 flyers usually aren't great, but this one has a bunch of different abilities, which makes it not terrible, I think. Let's call this like a build around. A build around C. Don't play this in any deck that doesn't have a lot of spirits. Must be played with lots of spirits, but pretty decent in that deck. Next, Mind's Dilation, unplayable. F. So this card, 5 blue. Whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles a top card of his or her library. If it is a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So what you're saying is half the